Welcome, everyone. This is Larry Johnson, your host at Eight Principles Voices, and I'm the founder of the Eight Principles. And I'm delighted to have an outstanding guest with me today, James Staton. I hope I pronounced that right.
Staton.
Staton. You see, I knew he was going to correct me, and that's fine. Um, and he's going to tell you an incredible story. And not only that, he's going to tell you about some incredible successes he's had with the foundation that he's established. So, welcome, James.
Great to be with you.
So there is so much in your background. And I'm going to preface the audience by saying we're going to do this probably in another time and we're going to focus on a different piece of what you're doing. But today, I want us first, could you share with us just a little bit about your background? Because that has really set you for everything else that you do.
Well, I describe myself as the son of sharecroppers. I'm one of nine kids. I'm the third oldest of the nine kids. My dad and mother both were from the North Carolina area, Tarboro and Scotland Neck, North Carolina. Um, and my dad left after the war, went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, worked in the steel mills for 3 years, sent money back, took care of my mother, brother, and sister. And then they came up, and I was the first child of theirs born in a hospital. My dad and mother's dream was for their kids to get what they didn't have, to get an education, to get full access to all the benefits of being a citizen of America. And by virtue of that, all nine of his kids, all of us got a high school education. Some of us have masters. We all were able to build a middle class lifestyle and above for ourselves. By virtue of looking at what my dad did and working in the mill, I recognize that I appreciate it. Certainly, we're significantly better than being on the farm working from sun up to sundown 6 days a week. However, I don't want to do that.
Well, and
And
not only that, you weren't working just sun up to sundown. You were working for somebody else on that farm.
correct.
Yeah. So it wasn't.
And so the sharecropping system was really a subset of slavery. And it was set up for you to be and stay in perpetual poverty. Um, I won't go into the details of sharecropping, but there's information available that with one picture it shows you the cycle of how
Yeah.
you keep people in poverty with that system.
You know what that's like, James. The old days with the company store and the company town, it was sort of an indentured servitude. It kept everyone, working for the mill, doing this, never going anywhere else or doing anything different. So it was a
Correct.
similar setup. Yeah.
Well, the indentured servants were the first slaves in America. The difference is that they could run away and blend in into the economy. The black people couldn't run away and blend in. So that really locked us down. So that system, my dad had enough foresight to understand that I won't be able to make my dreams and goals come true. And so his dreams and his goals were to get the full benefit of being an American citizen by working hard and getting a return on his investment of labor. And so, given that extreme circumstances, living in a segregated America, um, he made his dreams come true. And before he was 50 years old, he was debt free and owned three homes. And this is the guy who never made more than $38,000 a year. When he died, he left an estate worth $200,000.
Now,
My mother never worked, and he was dead and was still taking care of her based on how he managed his money. She was able to maintain the lifestyle that they had built for themselves.
now,
So they set a phenomenal example for
They,
us.
they did. And one thing you told me, I believe, was it was because of his understanding of money and how it works. And he conveyed that to you. And as a result, that's sort of where you are. And that what you're doing now in this foundation is to provide some of that education to people who don't have that opportunity to really understand how the world works.
That's correct. I mean, the essential thing was that he told me, and it really locked in for all of us: manage your money and you can manage your life. And the first thing you do, any money you get, you set aside a minimum of 15%. So if you make $1, you put 15, set aside 15% up front, and then you live off the rest. By virtue of doing that, you don't have to ask anybody for anything.
No.
And when a system that is set up for the economic shutout, if you will, that's the only way you're going to be able to make your dreams come true, given that set of circumstances. Now, as the circumstances improve and you get access to more money, that means that you have more control of your life. We don't need the government. We don't need philanthropic people. We don't need anybody. That we are in control of our lives. And as we do that, now we are contributing to the society and everybody wins. When everybody's self-sufficient, when everybody is managing their lives using the resources they have, and everybody's getting the benefit of their labor, we all win. We're all in this boat together.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, what was your, you had a very successful career. You're a serial entrepreneur. I think I want to go into some of that when we do this again, and how you came from thing. But let's fast forward a little bit. What happened, I guess, for you to say, I think I'm going to help other kids do this, and now that was the foundation. What was the moment or the impetus that drove that?
Well, the migration is in thought process, if you will, was that as I looked at my parents were givers. They were people that contributed to the community.
Mhm.
My mother was the mother of the community, if you will, although we had 9 kids, but there were other families. We had neighbors that their mother had died, and there was 9 of us, it was 8 of them. And so my mother was their mother. And people in the community, if the kids got in trouble, or if they needed something, they knew they could come to our house, and my mother would look after them. She would mend their wounds, she would feed them, and then she would contact their parents. But our house was a community house, and we were trained to help our neighbors. Most of the people in our neighborhood, the adults, only had 3 to 4 years worth of education. Most of them came from the farms from the deep south. So in many cases, because of my parents' focus on education, we were always reading above grade level. And there would be circumstances where the insurance man would come by, and then my neighbor would come over and say, Mom, he says, Jim, my mom needs you. And so I go over and I said, yes, Miss McCoy, what do you need? She says, Jim, read that policy and tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Now, this was in Pittsburgh, right? This is where.
This was in Pittsburgh. And so, then I would read the policy, and I would explain the policies. Here's what you're accountable for. Here's what they're accountable for. Here's the responsibilities, and here's how much money that you should pay in the event that you die. Here's what to pay. Now I'm 9, 10 years old.
You're 10 years old, and
Yes.
you're parsing an insurance policy for your neighbor.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. Think about that. I'm just kind of wrapping my head around. I'm not sure my dad would have turned me loose to do that to my neighbor.
Well, again, the focus was on education. My dad was almost fanatical about education. He says, man, they stole my education from me. It's critical. And that's the difference between full participation and being locked out.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So then you did this. This has been a part of you. Your home was sort of the community center. Your family, was there for other people. You were helping people when they needed it. So now you went on and you've had, as I said, a serial success.
Excuse me.
So we can go to a number of those, and I want to do that the next time we get together. But so when did you say to yourself, okay, now I've got a chance to give back, and because I've been so successful, and I have the example of my family. How did that come about? I mean, in terms of, how did it take form?
Well, all of us, all of my sibling, my brother graduated in '64. I graduated in '69, and for the most part, there were no black people in white collar jobs. There was not. We were just locked out. So my brother was the first kid in our neighborhood recruited out of high school, and he got a job as a mail clerk at the Fisher Body, which was the division of General Motors at the time, at their plant. That plant was built in '51, and they didn't hire any black folks. So when my brother got a job there and he's wearing a shirt and tie going to work, that was a radical thing in the community. No one had done that. And so he got there and he did well. And then my sister graduated in '66. They said, well, these Staton kids are pretty good. So they like to hire families. They hired my sister as a secretary. And then I came out in '69 and they recruited me out of high school. And I had scholarships, athletic scholarships, and also academic scholarships. But they recruited me out of high school. And I got a job as a clerk in the design engineering department. Now, I didn't know anything about engineering because at that time they steered the black kids away from higher math. They're saying, well, you know, you guys are black and therefore that kind of math will hurt your brain. So we're going to save you from that. And we're not going to expose you to algebra, trigonometry, calculus.
Oh,
right?
you know,
Now, again,
that's almost, well, that is so not my experience. Yet you and I are the same age. And so obviously we were living in two different worlds at that time.
There's always been two Americas.
And it's like, good grief. So after all that, okay, but you wanted to create this foundation. Tell me how you did that.
Well, I worked in 8 different industries for 23 years for other people.
Yeah.
And in each case, I outperformed those that I was competing against. And before I created this, you can Google me and get all, I won't go through all the different industries, but before forming the foundation, I worked for a nonprofit, the Material Handling Institute. And I came on there. I was working for an advertising agency. We got the contract, and then they were on the verge of going bankrupt. They had been around since '46. And I came on as the agency. We rebranded them and turned them into, instead of a lift truck centric organization, which says that material handling is a process. And we rebranded it as productivity solutions through material handling. Took the show from a national show to an international show, and I was doing business in 125 countries. I worked with the Reagan White House, Department of Commerce, and I sent out a newsletter every month that went out to 125 countries. Every U.S. consulate in the world received my newsletter. The show that we did had 33,000 people from 53 countries. We had 250,000 square feet of exhibit space. And that was the most successful show they had ever had. We became one of the top 5 industrial trade shows in the country. The machine tool show did 1 million square feet, and we were at 250,000. But our industry, as we defined it, was a $55 billion industry, and I was a spokesman for that industry. So I had to be vetted by the CIA, by the FBI, because at that time the Soviet Union was gone. And we had people from communist countries that came in. I had agents that worked for me around the world. So I got to a point, we took them from 2 million to 10 million in 5 years. Those monies went for scholarships. So we would have kids, some of the best minds, that would come be trained and then come into the material handling industry. So that kept the industry vibrant. Again, it's a nonprofit. But by virtue of that, my goal was to get us to 1 million square feet. And then other people on staff says, my goodness, if Staton does what he says he's going to do, he's going to be making more money than the president. And I said, well, I had a better year than the president. So
Love it.
what's the problem?
You're just so yourself. I love this. I love it. Jeff.
Okay.
I love
So, so they're like,
it.
we can't, they didn't say this in these words, but they're like, we can't have a black guy making $1 million a year off of us. That's unacceptable.
You can read between the tea leaves, you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a guy that I was reporting to. My base salary was half his salary. And yet I was making $40,000 a year more based on my commissions. And he got mad. And he started putting up all kind of roadblocks to prevent me from reaching the goals. So that's when I came to the realization, if I can make 10 million for them, I know I can make at least 2 for myself. And that was my motivation to go and create my own business. I bought a business that an IBM typewriter guy, I bought controlling interest in that business. And then based on what I had done in industry, I applied that to the white collar world. So I go to the banks and say, listen, I can reduce your costs, improve your efficiency, and give you a return on your investment. For every dollar that you pay me, I'm going to give you back 3. Mm-hmm. And by virtue of that, we took a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy. And at its zenith, I had 8 direct employees and 70 indirect employees. We covered 8 states. And we handle all the branches for Bank of America, Wells Fargo, regional banks, hospitals, airports, city, county, colleges. And we were a single source equipment repair company. Okay. So when you go into a bank and you look at the equipment they have there, the money counters, typewriters, faxes, copiers, paper shredders, irrespective of the manufacturer, you make one phone call and we handle that. Built that into a multi-million-dollar business that I ran for 23 years.
But now we're doing TopFlight, correct? So that's
yes,
that's a C3, and that's aimed at young people. So
correct.
Tell me, you're teasing me, James. I want to know how this happened. All right. What happened to say, okay, I've been successful in my business. I want to do this now for young people.
Well, that gave me the money.
Oh, I see.
So, okay. So this is all self-financed. I didn't take any loans.
That's right.
So I was living off my base salary and I was banking my commissions.
Okay.
The house that I bought was not a 30-year mortgage, but a 15-year mortgage. So in 10 years, my house was 2/3 paid for, plus the house had appreciated. By virtue of doing those things, I had $200,000. And that's how I ran my business, and I self-financed the business. So again, no one could control me. Mm-hmm. I was competing against billion-dollar corporations, and I was whipping their butt.
So you used the money that you made in your business to establish this foundation, TopFlight Foundation.
That's correct.
And when was
and so ultimately, I'm like, okay, I've achieved my goals and dreams. I have 2 kids. I was widowed at 36. My first wife, my children's mother, got breast cancer. We fought that for 5 years and we beat it. And then she got a brain tumor and it killed her.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So then I'm still, I got my goals and dreams, and I did what I call a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I reviewed myself. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And then my second wife, I interviewed her. She still says she felt like she was going for a job. Right?
Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised with this, James?
And she was interviewed, right? So, but her strengths were my weaknesses. And together we've built a good life. We've been married 35 years now. And she helped me build my business. She helps me with the foundation. But see, all of that is set up to say that when I speak to the kids, I want them to walk away saying, well, my goodness, if that guy could overcome all that and make his dreams come true, I know I can do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the motivation.
Okay.
And so they need to see people that look like them coming from their environment or worse, who made their dreams come true.
So then you go into schools, and do you have a team that works with you?
Um, I work with groups. I do this individually. There's a group called the Youth Business Alliance, and they're at youthbizalliance.org. Um, and then there's another group called Project Echo, and Project Echo is more detailed. I just started with them just recently, but I work with a group of freshmen, and they have an idea. We take it from an idea and put together a business plan, and then they participate in competitions for Shark Tank, and
Mhm.
there's cash prizes. So, but I'll be working with this group of kids until they graduate. And the whole thing is I work with the teachers, but I come in and teach them about entrepreneurship. I think I show them how to think like an employer instead of an employee. And three things that I teach them: how to increase efficiency, how to reduce costs, and how to give a return on investment. And you got to know your numbers. And
So,
so that process, then that's what's going to allow us to compete in the global economy.
so James, you're doing this message now, but I think when we talked before, one of your goals was to morph this, to grow this, because you're one man. And so so you're looking to kind of grow this, bring other people into it. Is that what you're trying to do?
That's correct. Here, our objective is to integrate this into the educational system across the country. The 40 years, get a gold watch and pension, that's dead, and it's not coming back.
No, it's not.
And most kids today are going to work at least in 5 different jobs over a 40-year period. And with the advent of computers, your knowledge is now captured. Everything we do, there's a keystroke, and the computers have that knowledge. So people, irrespective of your education, they're going to work you for 20 years, 25, throw you away and go get another kid and work them 20 to 25 years. So the last third of your life, you're going to be working for yourself. You're going to be an entrepreneur. It's not going to be optional. We have to prepare for that. That's the global economy. That's the competitiveness that we are involved in. And so I speak about inclusive competitiveness.
No, you mentioned that we spoke before. Yeah.
And that's about, irrespective of race, nationality, ethnicity, sexual orientation, capitalism rewards the best competitor. And what we need is the same metrics applied to everybody, and let the best person win and get the rewards for that. And if we look at sports, you take a look at all the major sports: football, basketball, track, hockey, all right? All those were segregated at one time.
Mhm.
And yet today, some of the highest paid athletes in the world were the people that used to be locked out. But once they took off the limitation and everybody has the same opportunity and everybody is measured by the same metrics, then people will pay to see people do the best at what they do.
Okay. So tell me, you want to spread this. How are you going to clone yourself? Are you going to train other people as a part of the foundation? Or do you even know yet? I mean, just tell me, what are your
Well, I already have that in place. I have 2 partners that are part of TopFlight. I had served as the chairman of the National Minority Supplier Development Council's minority businesses. We had 17,000 minority businesses across the country, 39 states. And by virtue of that, I have a network that's already built. But the limitation that I had there, that there were silos, and these silos are based on your ethnic background. And I says, that's not the way to go. The way to go is that we want to develop business people that can compete at the highest level. And then that's the way everybody wins. That doesn't divide us, that unites us. So it's my goal then to my 2 partners, and then by working with these other organizations that are focused on working with the schools, then they can replicate what they're doing in each city we go into. So that is the organization that's already there. It's already built.
Okay.
All we need is the funding in order to scale. We're talking about we need a couple $1 million. You give us two, I'll roll it out to 10 in less than 5 years.
Okay.
I've done it before.
All right. All right. You are, well, the audience doesn't know this, but you were very kind to share with me some of your pictures and memories before we did this. And, you and I are the same age. We graduated from high school in 1969. And you showed me that picture of you running track in high school. And I'm like, whoa, this guy was a real jock. Look at this. And it took me all the way back to high school. But there you are. It's like, whoa, look at this. So you're the guy that, I mean, you live your life the way you've always lived your life. You're running a
Yeah.
race, you always want to win. And I love that. I really love that. We're going to do this again. Um, Before we go, you know, how would someone contact you if they wanted to do that?
Uh, you can Google me, James Staton Jr., and that will take you to my LinkedIn profile. I also have 3 videos that are on YouTube. Inclusive Competitiveness is there, and that's a podcast where a gentleman interviewed me. And then I also have a video on there that speaks about goals. 5 years, 5 areas of your life. How do you do that? There's a young lady there that is doing business globally. She's probably in her early 30s. She has design business, clothing business. And she has people in Europe. She designs it, they make it, and she's selling it. And she worked my program. She's doing it. She's doing over $1 million a year.
Well, you've given me the subject of our next two podcasts with you, James: the inclusive competitiveness and the 5 things you need. Those are, we can take those and do those again. I want to thank you for doing this. And I know the audience is already charged for, okay, when are the others coming out? And we'll be doing those soon. But now, now you said that you grew up in North Carolina, you lived in Pittsburgh, but aren't you out west in California now?
I'm in Redondo Beach, California. I've been out here since 2013. When you burn the candle at both ends, eventually the candle runs out. I hit the wall when I was 57, so I had some very serious health issues, and almost died. I went from 189 pounds down to 114 pounds.
Whoa.
So I told my wife, I says, I said, I think I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. What are you going to do? She says, well, I'll move to California. And that's where she had lived her early years. She was in the entertainment industry. My wife was one of the Supremes.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. She sang with Jean Terrell, the lady that replaced Diana Ross. My wife was
Okay.
with Jean Terrell. So, and she's been on. She was the lustrous silk lady. She was a professional model, and has sang with a lot of groups. So she was in the entertainment industry. So I said, okay, we liquidated everything, and I moved out here. And it turns out after about 5 years, my health improved, and I had mold poisoning. I didn't know it. And so it takes about 5 years to get those poisons out of your system, and then my health rebounded. So
Well,
every day I wake up and see the sun shine, and I'm a happy guy.
well, boy, God's blessings to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just been having a wonderful time talking, and I can't wait to do this again. James Staton. I'll get this right.
Yeah, I tell people, I says, tell a dog to stay, and then 2,000 pounds.
All right.
Staton.
Staton. I got it. Who is really is a man with a message that he's lived. I think that's the most important part about what I learned today, that you have lived that, and that gives you such authority and such authenticity that no one can touch you with that. It's incredible. So I want to thank you for the time you've given us today, and we'll be doing this again very soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, soon there'll be another episode with another person who's lived a great life and is still living that life and is still moving forward. So, thank you for tuning in.